All right, welcome to try that again. Welcome to Witchpolice Radio. This is a kind of an interesting episode because I've been doing this for as long as I have been, and most of the time I'm talking to a band that I'm at least familiar with their work. In a lot of cases, it's a band that I've listened to for years, or someone who has a new record that's come out and I'm really excited about it. But this is a new band that I've heard one song of, and I like the song I've heard, but I'm kind of interested in trying this as a bit of an experiment because usually I have a lot of background information and research and all this stuff. But this one I'm kind of going into blind. So I'm excited to have you both on the show. And I think that the best way to sort of kick this off is if you want to introduce yourselves and then just give a bit of background about the project.
Yeah, my name is Mano. I sing in the band, play guitar, and write songs as well. Take it away, Nick.
My name's Nick. I play drums and I play in the band Show Pony.
And who were we missing? How many members are there actually in the band?
We have two more, Brett and Thomas.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like I said, Show Pony is new to me and I think new to pretty much everyone at this point. So What is the backstory here? Like how did this band start? And I have an idea of what you sound like based on, the small sample I've heard, but what kind of music are you playing?
Yeah, we started like back when we could, back before Code Red, actually before Code Orange even. And Nick and I have been wanting to play music together for quite some time, but haven't. And I don't know, we started jamming a bit with Thomas and Brett, and we didn't really know what kind of genre we were going for. We wrote like a punk song. We wrote more of a kind of like a Wilco-y rock song.
Okay.
And one day I was working at the Daughter and I came home and I was about to have a bath and suddenly this like melody came in my mind and it was a country melody and I was like, oh, like this genre really suits my voice actually, probably better than rock music. And I know Nick really digs country music aesthetic. And I was like, I feel like
at the very least, yeah.
At the very least. And and he's a credible musician. And I was like, I think this is gonna work. So I texted Nick and I was like, we're gonna write a country album.
Yeah.
And I sent, at the time I didn't have an acoustic guitar, so I just sent him a cappella, me singing the chorus to the song.
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, like let's do this, like we're in. And he brought Thomas along, and Thomas plays country music covers a lot with he's a hired gun.
Oh, cool.
So
okay.
It was like the perfect addition, and yeah.
What kind of country music are we talking about here? Because country is like almost a loaded term, right? There's a lot of phenomenal country music for sure. But depending who you're talking to, the word country can mean a lot of different things. So I guess, how are you coming to country music? Which way are you approaching it? What would be some of the kind of influences that people would recognize?
I think, I when I first started listening to country music, I was in like middle school.
Okay.
And I was more like listening to like Martina McBride and like Reba McEntire and stuff that like was nice, but like I didn't really necessarily relate to that much. And then in 2016, Margot Price released a record called Midwestern Farmer's Daughter.
Okay.
And she sounds so much like Loretta Lynn, like Dolly Parton, like very like that type of class of country. But her lyrics were obviously far more contemporary, and like her song Hands of Time moved me to tears. Like she's just so incredible, and I think that's kind of more my influence. But yeah, I through her I've discovered Loretta Lynn and like Tammy Wynette, and so I love that kind of stuff. But I think it would be a mistake to like just classify us as like strictly country.
Okay.
Because we all come from different backgrounds, like Nick has a prog rock background. Brett has a grunge background.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know. And so far we have one song that we recorded, so it's like, who's to say that we won't explore other things?
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I think our core will be country.
Okay. Well, in country also, I mean, we're in a city where country is huge. Like there's such a huge, massive roots scene. Anything that's kind of related in that bubble, right? Like roots, country, folk, bluegrass. And I mean, as you said, you could end up going in all kinds of different directions, but it's not a bad place to start a country band.
Yeah,
for sure for that kind of stuff. Yeah. So what with this one song you have recorded, like how did that come about? Because like you said, it was sort of at the beginning of all of this chaos with the pandemic. So how did you get sort of something down before everything went to shit?
Yeah, I mean,
well, I think like we basically like when we started playing together, at least right now, this isn't as much of a like, you know, I've been in bands before that are like jam bands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you're like, that's all you just sit and thrash it out, which is totally cool. But I think with it, at least so far with this project, we've kind of looked at it more like a songwriting standpoint. You know what I mean? Just like trying to craft a song as opposed to, you know, whatever. So we basically like, so far what we've done is we'll try to hammer out the sort of meat and potatoes of the song and then just start recording and see what happens and experiment and whatever. So like with this one, I think like Minot had, was it like, I don't know, was it just a chorus or was it a verse and a chorus?
Yeah, it was, well, first it was just the chorus, but like it all came really quickly. And even the lyrics all came quite quickly. And I think within like 2 days I had like the whole thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then I think within 2 days of writing that song, I bought an acoustic. I was like, I need to get an acoustic guitar. I traded it in for my first ever old guitar. And yeah.
That's a big move, I guess, right? To trade the old one and the acoustic.
It's kind of symbolic,
right?
isn't it?
Yeah,
commitment to the project, right? Yeah.
Well, I hadn't really been playing it when I bought that guitar. It was I was really into playing blues music because I for some reason joined jazz band in my school without having any experience playing guitar at all. I knew like G, A, D, and I was like, I'm totally good.
What else do you need?
That's all you need,
know?
yeah.
Really?
And then I saw the sheet music and I was like, oh, like what's G7? Like what are these?
Yeah.
You know, I was totally out of my league, but my teacher was so patient, like taught me a blues scale, whatever. So my first guitar was a hollow body Epiphone.
Cool.
Which I didn't really touch anymore.
Well, yeah, it's I guess it's like you said earlier, you know, that you found that your voice suits country as a genre. What do you think it is? Because I think that most people know you from Silence Kit, and they know you as being, you know, very loud, I guess would be a good way to put it. I mean, and a lot more aggressive than country typically is. So what do you think it is about your voice that fits well with I guess a stereotypically more mellow style of music?
Well, I didn't have much technique to be that loud, so I don't know how sustainable what I was doing was.
Right.
But I think also I'm far more familiar with rock music, so I think, you know, I started that band when I was like 20. I was trying to emulate other voices.
Okay.
And I didn't really have, no, I wouldn't say I didn't have my own because I eventually kind of got to it, but I kind of got trapped in trying to sound like Karen O, which I don't sound like Karen O, you know?
Right.
With country music, I have people that I'm influenced by, but I wasn't so into it that I wasn't really comparing myself to anyone, is I guess my point.
Well, I wonder if maybe it helps all of you as a band to be sort of approaching this genre as something that you haven't, you know, done. Maybe, well, you said the one guy has the covers, but just in general, right? Like, I mean, it's not your comfort zone, and you're probably bringing influences to it that most country bands aren't, which is potentially going to help you out in terms of coming up with something unique.
Totally. I think that's what makes it music interesting, you know, because it's very, and like, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, it's if you're approaching it from a very like altruistic country standpoint, like that's totally cool too. And I've definitely done that with other styles of music where that's been my thing and it's been pure. But yeah, like, I don't know, I think that's always what makes things interesting is like if you can bring a different angle. And I think that definitely we are going to bring a different angle because it's kind of so out of our comfort zones a little bit, you know? So who knows?
Is there any concern about not doing country justice, like, you know, as kind of outsiders to the genre, or do you even care about that?
I haven't thought about it. I haven't given it much thought.
Because breaking the rules can be good, right? I mean, that's how you create new things, is by breaking the established rules anyway. So I mean, I can't see it being a bad thing, but ultimately it just feels right. Like when I wrote this single, it just like felt right, and it was like there was some kind of intuition, and I don't know. I don't feel like I need to explain it to anyone. No, it's cool. Yeah. Do you think it gives you, I mean, I know again this is new, but do you think it'll give you the opportunity to maybe write about lyrics wise subject matter that maybe you haven't touched on with previous projects?
Totally. I mean, it's so different in previous bands, like old rock music. I couldn't care less what the lyrics were. I mean, it didn't. Some people would ask like, "Oh, what's the song about?" And it's like, who cares? Like that was really my sentiment. Country genre, I don't know if you could get away with that, and
I don't think so.
And you probably wouldn't make good music doing that. So yeah, and that's kind of why I approach this genre, is because I was like, oh, I have some things to say now. You know, I've been through some shit. I actually kind of feel like I had some thoughts, you know. And,
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it makes me wonder. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I always felt like that's the role that country music served for society, especially for like, because it's, you know, it's typically more of like a blue collar style of music, and like I could be totally off the mark, but I've always felt that it's like for a lot of like more, you know, straight people, it's like a way for them to be able to express their emotions in a way that you couldn't normally do. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
especially for a lot of like, you know, these male country artists that, you know, like back in the day that are like singing about their emotions and stuff, where might in their own personal lives might not be able to talk about it as much, or wouldn't be feel comfortable, like, you know, with their group of friends.
Yeah.
So I've always felt like it's important for being able to express emotion, you know.
Well, and it's super heavily emotionally driven too. I mean, it's very obviously not every single country artist is like this, but the storytelling aspect of it is huge. And yeah, just like because it's not limited, but it's so stripped down, right? So you kind of have to put the emotions at the forefront.
Yeah,
And,
of course.
And kind of how we're living now, you know, in quarantine, you know, we can't socialize. You're spending a lot of time observing.
Sure.
And I feel like kind of you know, you're able to kind of reflect more on, you know, whether it's, you know, yourself or your relationships, or, you know, whatever you're seeing or experiencing, or what you're not seeing or not experiencing.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, one of the things I've noticed too, and this is kind of funny because I don't think that you guys fit into this category at all, but a lot of old punks retire and become country artists.
Yeah.
You guys aren't old, but there's tons of, it happens all the time. You'll find some guy who's, you know, like, you know, well past his prime from his hardcore band or whatever, and then he's sitting there with an acoustic guitar. And I think part of it is what we were just talking about, that it gives you the opportunity to be more vulnerable. And in maybe the style of music they were playing before, that wasn't an option because it was very aggressive and in your face. And then, you know, when they're done yelling at people, they have something they want to say.
Yeah, totally.
But I don't think you guys apply because, again, you're not like in your, you know, late 50s or whatever. But
yeah. Not yet, but I do think that it's like, you know, that when people do that though, it kind of makes sense. And like, you know, I'm a huge fan of punk music, and like, but you know, like a lot of it is driven by youthful anger, and it's like, you know, especially as you grow older, it's like you can either like hold on to that but it's like you're gonna change naturally, like, you know, as you go on in life. So although I'd love to see all my heroes like in their 60s or 70s like playing all these old songs, it makes sense for a lot of them to kind of mellow out a bit and have a different point of view. You know, it's like it can't all be anarchy all the time, or maybe it can. I don't know.
But it still can be, but just in a different format, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of typical path anyway, right? Is you're done screaming, you want to turn it down a little bit, but then I don't know if that works for everyone. Like, I'm almost 40 now, and I listen to way more grindcore than I ever did in my 20s now. So I don't know how that works, but yeah.
That's fair.
Assuming, you know, the pandemic, no one knows what's happening. Assuming it ended next week, what is the first thing you guys would do as a band?
Write more songs.
Yeah, jam a lot more. Yeah, I don't know. Like, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think we're like my plan is, anyways, I don't know about these guys, but my plan is that by the time, because obviously like shows it's probably going to take a while for things to go back to where shows are going to, you know, how they were. But like, you know, it's an interesting time because it actually gives people time to develop a little bit, you know what I mean? And like, so in this case, I think that like, hopefully if we aren't in code red until things open up and we can't see each other, but if things kind of gradually roll out, it would be nice for us to get to the point that when we do start playing shows, it's just like we're there automatically. Like hopefully there's not going to be as much of a growth period because we'll have spent a lot more time thrashing it out in the basement, you know?
Yeah. Have you found this, not necessarily with this project, but just in general as musicians, have you found this period to be a creative one? Because a lot of people it's kind of either one, right? People are either really creative and whatever they're doing, whether it's visual art or writing or music or anything, they're just pouring out tons of content, or they're just completely blocked. How have the two of you found this?
I've been writing a ton of songs. Like I find inspiration all the time. You know, there was a time where I was creating a lot of visual art, like all day, all I was doing was that. But I find I can't do both. Like either I'm really creative musically or I'm really creative visually, but like like so far the two have not really coincided.
Why do you
Yeah.
think that is?
That was my question. Yeah.
You know what? I don't know. Well, maybe it also has to do with I feel like the last few things I've made visually have been like garbage, so maybe I'm just letting it break from that. But also when like for visual art, like I've always been with different mediums. So like for 1 week I'll love like pastels and watercolors. That's all I want to do, and then like I get really sick of that, and then I'll find like oils, which I actually find like challenging, and I'm like, okay, so that'll be really interesting. And I'll get sick of it. And I guess like music is similar, like in a way. But I found freedom in writing music on acoustic because before I was really just like a lyricist and melody writer.
Okay.
And I was I always had something in my mind that said like you can't play instruments, like you're not good at that, you're like that's not your skill set. And through country music, like just playing with 2 bars, a few simple chords, like you can write like beautiful songs.
Sure, you can, yeah.
So yeah, recently been writing a lot of music, but also challenging myself to learn finger picking as well, which I'm really enjoying.
Well, you have time. I mean, everyone has time, right? Yeah.
And there's just endless tutorials online, right? So
I believe it, yeah, for sure. What about you, Nick? Have you been creative during this?
Like, no, I don't know. I thrive on collaboration.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And like, I kind of fooled around a little bit with like guitar and stuff because my first instrument is obviously like drums and stuff like that. But I've been like fooling around a little bit with guitar and a couple other things, and I wrote some songs, but like I fire off a lot more when I'm with other people. I like that energy, and like and actually that's like one of the things that like even that's one of the things I liked about when shows are happening, and it's just like that energy. Like I was probably like I was at a show probably like every week. You know what I mean? Like that was like everything, just going out and seeing stuff, and it's like that's what drove me. So it's a little bit different, and it also it's definitely changed the things that I want to play right now, because like when I was doing shows, all the stuff like I did a lot of heavier things, and like and that was totally fun, but it's like that energy isn't in my life right now. You know what I mean? Like that. So I don't know. It feels to me, a little bit disingenuine to just keep thrashing like in my basement, because I don't have that right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a little different, but I'll be excited once we can get back together and start performing. Does
it require a different part of your brain to play something like country music versus something that's considerably heavier?
Well, I think it's different because like it's very different because it's just the whole approach. Like when what we're doing, like the song that we just recorded, I guess will probably be out maybe by the time this podcast is out. But like this, it's a lot different because it's like what I was doing before, like what I was doing in Moontan was more like you're trying to fill everything out. You know what I mean? And like it was a 3-piece, so and everything was very technical and whatever. But in this case, it's like now you have to be a little bit more conscious of like of not stepping on other stuff. You know what I mean? Where it's like overplaying and like, because it's a lot of it is about the song and the delivery of emotion and what's being sung and stuff. So it's like, sometimes it can kind of actually do more harm in some cases. So it's made me rethink things a little bit. But at the same time, I'm not totally unfamiliar with this type of music, because like my dad actually plays drums as well.
Okay.
And he has played in country bands basically since I can remember. So this is like I've heard this stuff for a really long time. So it's not unfamiliar.
How do you think this will translate to a live setting once shows eventually can happen? Because both of you are coming from bands that have a very strong live presence. I mean, maybe you won't be wearing as much face paint in this one, but
well, who knows?
Who knows? I don't know. But I mean, do you think that energy that both of you have kind of had in other projects, will that translate to this, or is it different? I mean, do you feel like you're sort of in a different place when you're playing this kind of music?
Well, even in Silence Kit, like we were really conscious about dynamics and making sure it wasn't just like, oh, wild, crazy all the time. We wanted I think this music really lends itself to that. Because again, before Code Red or anything, I showed Nick another song of mine, which is a bit more upbeat than this one, even though this one still is. So I think, we're gonna be really conscious of making sure it's a dynamic live show. because I think the most important part is that you're captivating. There's so many different ways to be captivating. You can be Alison Mosshart twirling on stage, being wild, or you can be like Neil Young, and
Sure,
it's both still very captivating.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the key.
Well,
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I definitely agree. Like okay, so one of my favorite bands is a band called Led Zeppelin. I don't know if you've ever heard of them before, but like one of the things I really like about Zeppelin is their use of dynamics. Like a lot, it's like it's very like Light and Shade was like their whole thing.
Yeah.
And like that's I'd like to do something similar with this band. And like definitely the energy, like I want there to be some energy, because that's like initially that's what really drew me to wanting to perform with Minot, was her energy on stage,
Right.
and like and all my favorite performers, like that's kind of their vibe. And like maybe it's not going to be like full on Iggy Pop all the time, but I don't necessarily want us to be like wilting lilies,
Sure.
like so.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Zeppelin too, because I mean, like, Robert Plant had that whole second career basically doing the folky stuff, which is great. And I saw him live doing that, and he was like, it was incredible. And he's basically standing there and there's acoustic guitars playing and really chill, and there's definitely something captivating about it, for sure. He has something to him that made it probably equally as fantastic to watch as it would have been when he's doing the full throated rock thing, right?
Well, the interesting thing about that too is that, like, and this is if my dad watches this podcast, this is a haunting thing that he's always said to me, is that like a lot of the best songs, you can play them on acoustic and they'll just be just as powerful as if you're playing them with everything.
Yeah.
And like I think that like that's one of the things with Zeppelin or a lot of bands, like it doesn't pick your poison, but like if you strip back any classics, every big classic song, like it's still a good song at its core,
Right.
So it's like even Robert Plant, like, yeah, whatever, you can play all this. I don't know if he was specifically doing Zeppelin, like strip back, yeah, right, but it's like, I'm sure they still hold water.
Oh, yeah, of course,
because it's like it's a good song. A good song is a good song.
Yeah, regardless of what the instrumentation is or who's playing it.
Yeah.
So I assume, obviously, once things get back to some semblance of normal, you want to be recording more songs, releasing stuff. Do you have a plan for that, or is it right now just sort of get through this weird time and get together again?
Yeah, I think we have we've been discussing it. Well, it depends on the government restrictions of what's going to be happening, but like who knows, maybe in a week or less than a week's time, if we even dial back a little bit, then, and if we can if you can have a meeting of at least 5 people, then we can do our thing. But if not, then we can reevaluate and perhaps start doing more stuff, just sending each other files and whatever. But there's a lot of, it seems like we have a lot of material kicking around, so it's like it'd be nice to get some of this stuff down.
So you could potentially put it into full gear if the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So at this point, I mean, again, we've made it pretty clear, I think, that it's a very new band, but how can people find out more information about what you're doing? I mean, no one's playing shows right now, but you can definitely at least do things online and keep in touch with bands you want to check out, right?
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram at Show Pony Band or on Facebook at Show Pony Band 7.
7? There's 6 other ones?
No, it's just a lucky number. I think there is another one, but so I picked the luckiest number.
Right on.
They haven't been active for like 5 years, so we figured it was.
We're safe. Yeah,
we're good.
What was the significance behind the name? I mean, it's a very country name for sure.
This is like so corny, but like I was on like, I think it was like 2 a.m. and I couldn't sleep, and I was on like name generators, not to find like a perfect band name on a name generator, but just for words. Like I want like a one word that I can like find. And pony it was like something pony, and like word association was like show pony.
Yeah.
I was like, that's like, so we each made lists of potential names, and like everyone was like, show pony is great.
Cool.
Turns out Orville Peck has a album called.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's like perfect because Moontan was also an album name. So
it was.
It's true. An album name. Soundscape was a song name.
That's right. Yeah. So
all good.
Everything's stolen.
Yeah, everything's stolen.
There's no original anything anymore. Yeah.
I agree.
I feel like it's the same thing. Like when we picked the name Moontan, we did a similar thing where it was like we printed off like hundreds of sheets paper of words, just like, 4-letter words or whatever. Because we were trying to find the perfect name, the like precise short thing that everybody was going to remember.
Yeah.
And then something similar happened where the name Moontad just came to me, and I was like, okay, this is it. You know what I mean? And then at that time, it's just like, that's what you have to go with, and she had a strong contender, and it's like, let's just go with it. This sounds great.
And it makes sense because like we're all performers, like we're all into like live performance and
Totally
giving it everything. So like it just made sense.
Is there any are you guys technically a Winnipeg supergroup at this point, because you're all from other bands? I mean, I know every band is from other bands, but like when I first saw the lineup, people, I'm like, oh, okay, I've heard all the other bands these people are in for the most part, right? Like, is it acceptable to call yourself a supergroup?
I
don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I'm kind of hoping you will, so I don't have to do it. But I don't know.
That's in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
Yeah, you can maybe leave us a comment on Instagram. Do you think we're a supergroup?
Right on.